My boyfriend said I was being dramatic about his female best friend, until I showed him the text where she said she's just waiting for us to break up. For 6 months, I'd been trying to explain that Veronica made me uncomfortable. The way she'd text him at 2 a.m. about nothing. How she'd touch his arm and call him by a nickname only she used. The Instagram stories she'd post from his apartment when I wasn't there. "You're being insecure," Liam would say. "We've been friends since high school." It's not like that. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. Then my phone died during a work conference and I borrowed Liam's to call my mom. That's when I saw it. A notification from Veronica that made my stomach drop. "Day 187 of watching you waste your time. She's not gonna last." They never do. My hands shook as I opened their message thread. Months of conversations I'd never seen. Her complaining about me. Him defending me, but weakly. Her sending photos of herself in outfits. Asking his opinion. Him responding with heart emojis I'd thought were reserved for me. But the worst part was from 3 weeks ago. "Veronica, you know you're going to marry me eventually, right? We're inevitable." Liam, "Stop. I'm with her now." Veronica, "For now, but I'm patient. I've waited this long." He'd never told me about that message. Never mentioned that his best friend was openly declaring her intention to replace me. When Liam came home that evening, I handed him his phone with the messages open. "I can explain," he started. "Explain what?" I asked, surprisingly calm. "That your best friend thinks you two are endgame? That she's counting down the days until we break up?" His face went pale. "It's not like that. She's just going through a breakup. She's emotional." "This is from 6 months ago," I said. "Her breakup was last month." He had no response to that. I spent the next week at my sister's place thinking Liam would realize how toxic Veronica was. Instead, he sent me paragraphs about how I was overreacting, how I was trying to isolate him from his friends. Then Veronica posted a photo, her and Liam at the restaurant where we'd had our first date. Caption, "Some traditions are worth keeping." I blocked them both. 2 months later, I was rebuilding. New apartment, new routines, new confidence. I'd started seeing someone casual, nothing serious, just testing the waters again. That's when my sister called. "You need to see this," she said, her voice strained. She sent me a link to a wedding website, Liam and Veronica's wedding website. The date was set for 6 months out. Their love story section claimed they'd been secretly in love for years, but timing was never right until recently. I felt sick. Then I felt angry. Then I felt something else entirely. Because buried in their photo gallery was a picture that made everything click into place. Liam and Veronica at a restaurant, dated 8 months ago. 2 months before Liam and I even started dating. I zoomed in on the background. There was a ring box on the table. My sister's voice pulled me back. "There's more. Check your email. Someone sent you something." In my inbox was a message from an unknown sender. No name, just a subject line. "You deserved to know the truth." Attached were screenshots. Dozens of them. Messages between Liam and Veronica going back 2 years, planning how he'd date other girls to make her jealous, discussing their timeline for getting back together, referring to me and his other ex-girlfriends as placeholders. But the last screenshot was dated yesterday. Veronica to Liam. "I told you the revenge plan would work perfectly." She never suspected we staged that text for her to find. My phone buzzed. A new message from the unknown sender. "We need to talk. I'm ex-girlfriend number 3, and I think they did this to all of us." I stared at the message for a full minute before my fingers started working again. "Who is this?" I typed back. The response came immediately. "Coffee tomorrow? 10 a.m. at Riverside Cafe? I promise I'm not crazy, but we need to compare notes before their wedding happens." My sister was reading over my shoulder. "Don't go alone." "I won't," I said. But something in my chest had shifted from confusion to cold, calculated anger. I showed up 15 minutes early the next morning, my sister waiting in her car across the street as backup. The cafe was one of those hipster places with exposed brick and overpriced lattes. I ordered a black coffee and claimed a corner table with a clear view of the door. At exactly 10, a woman walked in. She was tall, with dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail, wearing business casual like she'd come straight from an office. Her eyes scanned the room and landed on me. Some sort of recognition passed between us. "You must be the placeholder from last year," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. No handshake, no pleasantries. "I'm Kendra. I was the placeholder from 3 years ago." "How did you find me?" I asked. "I've been tracking them," she said simply, pulling out a tablet. "After what they did to me, I started keeping tabs. Every time Liam starts dating someone new, I document it. I have a whole file." She opened a folder on her screen. Inside were dozens of photos, screenshots, and documents organized by date. Why? The question came out harsher than I intended. Kendra's jaw tightened. "Because they destroyed my life, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy, that it really happened the way I remembered." She pulled up a timeline. Liam and Veronica dated in high school, broke up their freshman year of college, supposedly mutual, but they never really stopped. They'd date other people, but always keep each other as the backup plan. The best friend thing was a cover. I leaned forward. "So why the games? Why not just be together?" "Because Veronica has abandonment issues from her parents' divorce," Kendra said, "and Liam has a savior complex. They're addicted to the drama of breaking up and getting back together." But somewhere along the way, it turned into a sick competition. She scrolled through messages. They started making bets. Who could date someone longer before the other got jealous enough to sabotage it? Who could make their placeholder fall harder before the inevitable breakup? They keep score. My stomach turned. That's insane. That's not even the worst part. Kendra pulled up a spreadsheet. They document everything. How long each relationship lasts. How devastated each girl is when it ends. They've been doing this for 6 years. "You're number 7. 7? I whispered. "There's me. There's you. There are 5 others in between." She showed me a list of names, dates, and what she called emotional damage scores that Liam and Veronica had assigned to each breakup. I pushed back from the table, feeling sick. "How do you know all this?" Because after Liam dumped me, I broke into Veronica's cloud storage, Kendra said flatly. I'm a cybersecurity analyst. It's what I do. And before you judge me, understand that these two people convinced me I was mentally unstable. They gaslit me so thoroughly I spent 8 months in therapy thinking I was paranoid and possessive. She pulled up another file. Then I found their shared journal. They write about us like we're characters in their personal soap opera. They rate our performances. They critique our reactions to their manipulations. My hands were shaking. Show me. What I read made me want to throw up. Entry after entry, describing in cold detail how they'd planted seeds of doubt, staged conversations for me to overhear, and orchestrated that final text message I'd found. They'd even debated which wording would hurt the most. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Why not expose them months ago? Kendra's eyes hardened. Because I wanted to wait until they felt safe, until they thought they'd won. They're getting married in 6 months, right? They think all their placeholders are too broken or too embarrassed to cause trouble. She leaned across the table. But I've been collecting evidence for 3 years. And I found 4 of the other women. We've been talking, comparing stories, building a case. A case for what? Fraud, for starters. Do you know how much money we collectively spent on therapy? On moving apartments to get away from them? On replacing items they accidentally damaged? I've calculated over $40,000 in damages across all 7 women. I felt something cold settle in my chest. You want to sue them. I want to destroy them, Kendra corrected. The way they destroyed us. But legally, professionally, socially, I want everyone they know to see exactly what they are. She pulled up a group chat. The others are waiting to meet you. We need all 7 to make this work. Will you help us? I thought about the last 8 months. The sleepless nights, the panic attacks, the way I'd questioned my own instincts and sanity, the way Liam had made me feel like I was the problem. What's the plan? Kendra smiled. And it wasn't a nice smile. We crashed their wedding. But not the way you're thinking. The next meeting happened 3 days later in a private room at a law library. Kendra had rented it under her firm's account. When I walked in, 4 other women were already there. They all looked at me the way I probably looked at them. Recognition mixed with sympathy, mixed with anger. Okay, Kendra said, pulling up a presentation on the room's screen. Let's introduce ourselves properly. I'm Kendra, placeholder 3. I dated Liam for 8 months 2 years ago. A blonde woman with glasses spoke next. I'm Whitney, placeholder 1. I dated him for 6 months, 4 years ago. I was a sophomore in college. He was my first serious boyfriend. Placeholder 2, said a woman with a short pixie cut. Britt, 7 months, 3 years ago. I moved to a different state to get away from the harassment. Placeholder 4, said a quiet brunette. Deshaun, 4 months. He proposed to me, then ghosted me completely. I found out later it was because Veronica got jealous of the ring. Placeholder 5, said a woman with purple streaks in her hair. Tess, 9 months. Longest one before you. She nodded at me. They really committed to breaking me down. I swallowed hard. Placeholder 6, 8 months. I thought I was going crazy. We all did, Whitney said. That's their specialty. Kendra clicked the next slide. Here's what we know. Liam and Veronica have been running this pattern for 6 years. They've cost us collectively $42,000 in therapy, moving costs, property damage, and lost wages from jobs we quit due to stress. They've violated revenge porn laws in 3 states by sharing intimate photos of us in their private chats. And they've committed fraud by soliciting loans from some of us under false pretenses. She clicked again. But the real crime is emotional abuse. Systematic, calculated, documented emotional abuse. They've been recording us, taking notes on our vulnerabilities, using psychological manipulation techniques they research online. How do we prove all this? I asked. Kendra smiled. Because they documented everything themselves. Their shared cloud storage has years of evidence. Journals, spreadsheets, videos, photos. They were so confident no one would ever see it that they kept meticulous records. You still have access? Deshaun asked. I do, and I've been downloading everything. Backed up in 3 separate locations. Encrypted, time-stamped, verified. Britt leaned forward. So what's the plan? We have multiple objectives, Kendra said. 1, we want financial restitution. 2, we want public exposure so they can't do this to anyone else. 3, we want them to feel a fraction of what we felt. She pulled up a new slide showing a timeline. The wedding is in 5.5 months. Here's what we do. We let them think they won. We don't contact them. We don't leave reviews or make social media posts. We stay completely silent. Why? Tess asked. Because they're watching, Kendra said. Veronica still monitors our social media. Liam has burner accounts that friend our friends. They're waiting for us to act out so they can play the victim. So we go dark. We let them relax. She clicked to the next slide. Meanwhile, we build our case. We compile evidence. We contact a lawyer who specializes in emotional distress lawsuits. We document everything in a format that will hold up in court. And then? I asked. Then, 2 weeks before the wedding, when they've sent out invitations and paid all their deposits, when their families and friends are all invested, we file a lawsuit. A detailed, specific, publicly filed lawsuit that names both of them and includes enough evidence in the filing that anyone who searches their names will find it. Whitney's eyes widened. Their employers will see it. Their wedding guests will see it, Britt added. The wedding vendors will see it, Deshaun said. Everyone will see it, Kendra confirmed. And the beauty is, it's all true, documented, provable. They can't claim we're crazy ex-girlfriends because there are 7 of us telling the same story. What about criminal charges? I asked. Harder to prove, Kendra admitted. But the civil suit will be devastating enough. Liam works in finance. A lawsuit alleging fraud and emotional abuse will destroy his career. Veronica's in HR. Her entire job is handling workplace misconduct. She'll be unhireable. Tess was nodding. And the wedding? Will probably get canceled, Kendra said. Once their families see the lawsuit, once their friends start asking questions, once the vendors realize they're hosting an event for people accused of systematic abuse. But we're not stopping there, Kendra continued. We're also creating a comprehensive document, a PDF file that details everything with screenshots, timelines, and testimonials from all of us. We're going to email it to every single wedding guest 2 days before the ceremony. The room went quiet. Is that legal? Whitney asked. Perfectly legal, Kendra said. It's the truth. We have proof. We're not making threats or spreading lies. We're informing people about who they're celebrating. I felt my hands curl into fists. Count me in. One by one, the others agreed. Good, Kendra said. Because we have a lot of work to do, and we need to be smart about this. No emotional outbursts. No drunk texts. No social media posts. We treat this like the legal case it is. She handed out folders. These are your assignment. Whitney, you're documenting financial damages. Britt, you're compiling the timeline. Deshawn, you're organizing the screenshots and messages. Tess, you're handling victim statements. And you, she looked at me, you're going to help me build the psychological profile showing their pattern of behavior. What about placeholder 7? I asked. Kendra's expression darkened. There isn't one. You were the last. After you, Liam and Veronica decided they'd proven their point and set their wedding date. You were the final game before they settled down. Lucky me, I said bitterly. Actually, yes, Kendra said. Because you're the one who can testify to their current state of mind. You can confirm they're still together, still planning the wedding, still acting like nothing happened. Your testimony is crucial. She stood up. Everyone understand their assignments? We meet again in 2 weeks. Same place, same time. Until then, complete radio silence about this. No texts about it, no emails, no social media. We keep this airtight. As we filed out, Whitney caught my arm. Hey, I know this is overwhelming, but I just want you to know, you're not alone anymore. What they did to you, to all of us, it wasn't okay. And we're going to make sure they face consequences. I nodded, not trusting my voice. In the parking lot, my sister was waiting in her car, engine running. Well, she asked as I got in. We're going to destroy them, I said. She studied my face for a moment, then nodded and put the car in drive. The next 2 weeks were a blur of documents and memories I'd tried to forget. Every night after work, I'd sit at my kitchen table with my laptop, pulling up old text messages, emails, and photos, building a timeline of manipulation. I documented the time Liam accidentally liked an Instagram photo of Veronica in a bikini, then told me I was overreacting when I mentioned it. The time he canceled our anniversary dinner because Veronica was having a crisis, then posted photos the next day of them at a concert together. The time Veronica showed up at my apartment unannounced and let herself in with Liam's key, claiming she needed to grab something he'd left there. Every gaslighting conversation. Every time he'd made me feel jealous and possessive for having completely reasonable boundaries. Every time he defended Veronica while making me feel like the problem. I pulled bank statements showing the money I'd lent him for emergencies that he never repaid. I found emails where he'd promised to pay me back, then later claimed he didn't remember borrowing anything. I screenshot the dating app where we'd met, where his profile claimed he was looking for something serious and tired of games. The more I documented, the angrier I got. Not the hot, explosive anger of betrayal, but cold, calculated fury that sharpened my focus. I started sleeping better. Having a purpose, a plan, was therapeutic in a way months of actual therapy hadn't been. My sister noticed. You seem different, she said one night over takeout. I feel different, I admitted. I spent so long thinking something was wrong with me, wondering if I was too jealous, too insecure, too demanding. Now I know it was all part of their game, and that clarity is powerful. Just don't let revenge consume you, she warned. It's not revenge, I said. It's justice. There's a difference. The second meeting came quickly. All 7 of us reconvened in the law library, folders thick with evidence. Kendra started the meeting by pulling up a video on the screen. Before we share our findings, I want you all to see something. I hacked into the camera system at Veronica's apartment last week. My stomach dropped. Is that legal? Questionable, Kendra admitted. Which is why this footage will never see the inside of a courtroom. But I needed you all to see this to understand what we're dealing with. She pressed play. The video showed Liam and Veronica in her living room, laptop open between them. On the screen was Whitney's LinkedIn profile. She's still single, Veronica said, laughing. 3 years later and still no relationship status update. We really did a number on her. She was too easy, Liam replied. Believed everything I said. Remember when I told her I was allergic to her perfume and she threw out her entire collection? They both laughed. Veronica scrolled to another profile. Mine. This one lasted longer, she said. I thought we might actually have competition. Please, Liam scoffed. She was desperate for validation. Classic daddy issues. Once I figured that out, it was over. Veronica kissed him. You're terrible. You love it. I do. But I'm glad we're done with the games. 7 placeholders is enough. Time to settle down and be boring. Never boring, Liam said. We'll just find new games to play. Kendra paused the video. The room was completely silent. Whitney was crying quietly. Britt's hands were balled into fists. Deshawn looked like she might be sick. I'm sorry you had to see that, Kendra said. But I needed you to understand. They don't feel guilty. They're not conflicted. They're proud of what they did. They see us as entertainment, as accomplishments. They're sociopaths, Tess said flatly. Maybe, Kendra said. Or maybe they're just cruel people who found each other. Either way, they need to face consequences. She pulled up a new presentation. Let's review what we have. Whitney, you're up first. Whitney wiped her eyes and pulled out a spreadsheet. Total financial damages across all 7 of us. $43,200. That includes therapy bills, moving costs, property damage, unreturned loans, and lost wages from jobs we quit due to stress. She clicked through receipts and bank statements. each one backed up with documentation. I have signed affidavits from 3 therapists confirming they treated us for symptoms consistent with emotional abuse and gaslighting. I have rental agreements showing 4 of us moved to different addresses within months of the breakup. And I have loan agreements and text messages showing money that was borrowed and never repaid. Excellent work, Kendra said. Britt, timeline? Britt pulled up a massive flowchart. I've mapped every relationship chronologically with key events. The patterns are identical across all 7 relationships. Each one follows the same playbook. Love bombing in month 1. Introduction to Veronica in month 2. Gradual isolation from friends and family in months 3 and 4. Escalating triangulation with Veronica in months 5 through 7. Then either an abrupt breakup or a slow fade. She zoomed in. But here's where it gets interesting. Look at the gaps between relationships. Each breakup is followed by a 6-week period where Liam and Veronica publicly reunite. They post couple photos, change their relationship status, do everything to make sure the ex-girlfriend sees they're together. Then, exactly 6 weeks later, they quietly remove the relationship posts and Liam starts dating someone new. It's a victory lap, I said quietly. Exactly. They want us to see them together. They want us to feel like we were replaced. It's part of the game. Deshawn went next, presenting hundreds of screenshots organized by theme, manipulation tactics, gaslighting phrases, triangulation attempts, boundary violations. The consistency is damning, she said. They use the exact same lines on all of us. You're being insecure. She's just a friend. I can't believe you'd ask me to choose, word for word, across 7 relationships. Tess presented our victim statements, powerful testimonials from each woman describing the emotional toll. Several of us had been diagnosed with anxiety or depression following the relationships. 2 had lost jobs. 1 had attempted suicide. The room felt heavy with shared trauma. Finally, Kendra and I presented the psychological profile. We'd worked with a forensic psychologist who'd reviewed all our evidence and written a detailed analysis of Liam and Veronica's pattern of behavior. The diagnosis was clear. Systematic emotional abuse with sociopathic tendencies, predatory relationship patterns, calculated manipulation, high likelihood of reoffending. This is enough to bury them, Kendra said. We have financial damages. We have pattern evidence. We have expert testimony. We have their own words documenting their actions. So what's next? I asked. Kendra pulled up a calendar. We have 4 months until the wedding. Here's the timeline. Month 1, we finalize all documentation and submit it to our lawyer. Month 2, we let the lawyer review everything and prepare the filing. Month 3, we do nothing. We wait. We let them think they're safe. And month 4, 2 weeks before the wedding, we file the lawsuit. 1 week before the wedding, we send the information packet to all wedding guests. And the day before the wedding, we hold a press conference. A press conference? Whitney said. Isn't that overkill? No, Kendra said, because this isn't just about us anymore. Think about how many other people they could do this to. How many more women could end up like us. We have a responsibility to expose them. She pulled up a mock press release. We're going to tell our story publicly. As a group, 7 women who independently discovered they'd been victimized by the same couple. It's newsworthy. Local media will cover it. And once it's public, it becomes searchable. Anyone who Googles their names will find our story. We'll be exposed too, Britt said. We will, Kendra agreed. But we'll be exposed as survivors, not victims. As women who fought back, who refused to stay silent. And we'll use fake names in the press conference if anyone wants, she added. But the lawsuit has to have our real names. That's the price of legal justice. I looked around at the 6 other women. We'd all been broken by the same 2 people. We'd all spent months thinking we were alone, that something was wrong with us. Now we were together. Now we were fighting back. I'm in, I said. My real name, everything. One by one, the others agreed. The next 3 months were the longest of my life. We worked in secret, communicating only through encrypted channels. Our lawyer, a woman named Isabel who specialized in interpersonal abuse cases, was methodical and brilliant. This is one of the most well-documented cases I've ever seen, she told us at our first meeting. Most abuse victims don't have this kind of evidence. You've built an airtight case. She walked us through the legal strategy. We'd file a civil lawsuit alleging intentional infliction of emotional distress, fraud, and conspiracy to commit emotional harm. We'd name both Liam and Veronica as defendants. We'd seek compensatory and punitive damages. The beauty of a civil suit is the lower burden of proof, Isabel explained. We don't need beyond reasonable doubt. We just need preponderance of evidence. And you have that in spades. While Isabel prepared the legal filing, Kendra and I worked on the public-facing document, a comprehensive PDF that told our story in clear, factual language. Screenshots, timelines, expert analysis, and personal testimonials. We hired a private investigator to verify information and dig deeper into Liam and Veronica's background. What he found was chilling. They'd been doing this even longer than we thought. Before the 7 of us, there were 3 other women in high school and early college, 10 victims total over 8 years. The investigator also found that Liam had been fired from a previous job for inappropriate relationships with subordinates. The company had paid a settlement to a former employee who'd filed a harassment complaint. Veronica had been named in 2 separate complaints at her company's HR department. Both were dismissed, but the allegations involved favoritism toward Liam and hostility toward women he dated who worked at the same company. They're not just doing this in their personal lives, Isabel said. They're doing it professionally, too. This is who they are. As the wedding date approached, we watched from afar as Liam and Veronica posted happy couple photos, wedding planning updates, and gushing comments about their love story. Veronica posted a photo of her dress with the caption, 7 years of friendship finally becoming forever. The number wasn't a coincidence. It was a taunt. They know we know, Tess said in one of our meetings. They're rubbing it in our faces. Let them, Kendra said. The higher they climb, the harder they'll fall. 2 weeks before the wedding, Isabel filed the lawsuit. It was a public record immediately. Within hours, we saw the first signs that it had been noticed. Liam's law firm put him on administrative leave. Veronica was called into a meeting with her company's legal team. Their wedding website suddenly went private. 1 week before the wedding, we sent the information packet to every guest on their list. The investigator had managed to get the full guest list from the venue. 250 people received a detailed PDF explaining exactly who they were about to celebrate. The responses came fast. Within 24 hours, over half the guests had canceled their RSVPs. Family members started calling Liam and Veronica, demanding explanations. Friends posted confused messages asking if the lawsuit was real. Veronica posted a statement on social media. "We're victims of a coordinated attack by jealous ex-girlfriends who can't accept that we've moved on. Please don't believe their lies." But the evidence was too overwhelming. Screenshots of their own messages, their own words, expert testimony, 10 women telling the same story. The news started picking it up. Local reporters reached out to Isabel, who confirmed the lawsuit was real and that her clients were willing to go public. 3 days before the wedding, Liam posted that the ceremony was postponed due to unforeseen circumstances. The next day, Veronica posted a long rant about false accusations and trial by social media, but her comments were flooded with people pointing out the documented evidence. 2 days before the wedding, we held our press conference. All 7 of us sat at a table in a hotel conference room, facing cameras and reporters. Kendra spoke first, explaining how we'd found each other and what we'd discovered. Then each of us told our story. Brief, factual, emotional. When it was my turn, I looked directly into the camera. I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was too jealous, too insecure, too possessive. It took meeting 6 other women with identical stories to realize I wasn't the problem. They were. The reporters asked questions. How did we meet? How did we discover the pattern? What did we want from the lawsuit? Justice, Whitney said simply. And to make sure they never do this to anyone else. The press conference made regional news. By that evening, it had gone national. 7 women exposed couples' decade-long pattern of abuse was trending on social media. People started coming forward with their own stories of Liam and Veronica. A woman who'd worked with Liam said he'd harassed her for months. A man who'd been friends with Veronica in college said she'd bragged about manipulating her boyfriends. The narrative was set. They couldn't spin this as jealous ex-girlfriends. There were too many of us. Too much evidence. Too many corroborating witnesses. The day before what should have been their wedding, I got a message from Liam. "You destroyed my life. I hope you're happy." I screenshot it and sent it to Isabel. Then I blocked his number. Veronica tried next, a long email about how we'd misunderstood everything, how they'd never meant to hurt anyone, how they were the real victims. I deleted it without responding. The wedding, of course, didn't happen. The venue had canceled their contract. The photographer and caterer had backed out. Most importantly, Liam's family and Veronica's family had pulled their support. Liam's mother actually reached out to Whitney to apologize. "I had no idea," she wrote. "I'm so sorry for what my son did to you." Veronica's sister contacted me. "I should have known something was off. The way she talked about Liam's girlfriends. Like it was a game. I thought she was just being catty. I didn't realize it was intentional." The civil suit moved forward. Liam and Veronica hired separate lawyers, trying to turn on each other. Veronica claimed everything was Liam's idea. Liam claimed he was just following Veronica's lead. But the evidence showed they were equal partners in the abuse. Their shared journals, their coordinated plans, their mutual celebration of each woman's pain. 6 months after we filed, they settled. $43,000 split between the 7 of us. Written letters of apology that Isabel said were the most hollow she'd ever read. And most importantly, a legally binding agreement that they would not contact any of us ever again. They also had to complete mandatory therapy and community service focused on domestic violence awareness. But the legal settlement was almost beside the point. The real damage had already been done. Liam lost his job. His reputation in the finance world was destroyed. Last I heard, he was working as a sales associate at a cell phone store. Veronica was fired from HR. She'd become unemployable in her field. Her LinkedIn profile was flooded with warnings from women who'd looked up the lawsuit. They broke up 3 months after the wedding was canceled. Apparently, when the game stopped being fun and started having real consequences, they turned on each other. According to the investigator we kept on retainer, Liam moved back in with his parents. Veronica moved to another state, trying to start over with a new identity. But the internet doesn't forget. Our press conference video has over 2 million views. The news articles are the first thing that appears when you Google their names. The legal settlement is public record. They'll carry this with them forever. A year after the lawsuit settled, the 7 of us met again, not to talk about Liam and Veronica, but to celebrate. We'd all moved forward in different ways. Whitney had gotten engaged to a man she'd met in a support group for abuse survivors. She said he understood her trauma in a way no one else could. Britt had gone back to school and was finishing her degree in psychology, planning to specialize in helping victims of emotional abuse. Deshawn had written a book about her experience, changing names but telling the essential truth. It had found a small publisher and was getting good reviews. Tess had started a nonprofit helping women identify and escape manipulative relationships. She'd already helped dozens of people. Kendra had been promoted at her cybersecurity firm and was doing consulting work for law enforcement on digital stalking cases. And me? I'd finished my nursing degree and was working in a trauma ward. Every day, I helped people who'd been hurt, who needed someone to believe them and fight for them. I'd also started dating someone new, someone kind and patient who understood that I had trust issues and was willing to work through them with me. At our reunion dinner, we toasted not to revenge, but to survival. We could have stayed victims, Kendra said, raising her glass. We could have let them break us permanently. Instead, we fought back. We found each other. We built something stronger than what they destroyed. To us, Whitney said. To survivors, I added. We clinked glasses, 7 women who'd been strangers a year ago, now bonded by shared trauma and shared triumph. Later that night, I checked social media one last time. Veronica had created a new profile under a slightly different name. She'd posted a vague status about starting over and leaving the past behind. I could have screenshot it, could have sent it to the others, could have started the cycle of monitoring and documentation all over again. Instead, I blocked the profile and closed the app. They didn't deserve any more of my energy. They didn't deserve any more of my time. They'd taken enough. 18 months after the press conference, I got an unexpected message. It was from a woman I didn't know, asking if I was the person from the lawsuit against Liam and Veronica. My first instinct was to ignore it, but something made me respond. Yes, why? Her reply came quickly. I think he's doing it again. My friend started dating someone who matches his description. Same patterns, same manipulation tactics. I saw your press conference and recognized the behavior. My stomach dropped. I immediately forwarded the message to Kendra. She called me 5 minutes later. I was afraid of this. The settlement agreement said he couldn't contact any of us, I said. It didn't say he couldn't date other people. Exactly, and people like him don't change. They just get better at hiding. We called an emergency meeting of the 7. Within days, we'd tracked down the woman who'd messaged me. Her name was Chloe, and her friend Rachel had been dating someone named Liam for 3 months. He told her his ex-girlfriends were crazy, Chloe explained. That they'd made up stories about him and ruined his life. He has a new job, new apartment, new identity. He even dyed his hair. But the patterns are the same? Kendra asked. Identical. Love bombing. Introducing his best friend, who's clearly more than a friend. Making Rachel feel jealous and possessive. I showed her your press conference, but he's convinced her you're all lying. We looked at each other. We'd thought it was over. We'd thought we'd stopped them. What do we do? Whitney asked. Isabel, who we'd kept on retainer, was clear. Legally, you can't contact him directly. That would violate the settlement agreement. But there's nothing preventing you from educating other women about warning signs of manipulative behavior. An idea started forming. What if we created a resource? I suggested. A website dedicated to recognizing and escaping emotionally abusive relationships. We could share our story as a case study without violating the agreement. Kendra's eyes lit up. And we could create a database of behavior patterns, red flags, common manipulation tactics, make it searchable so people can check if what they're experiencing matches known patterns. Tess jumped in. My nonprofit could host it. We're already a registered educational organization. It would be completely legal, Deshawn added. And I could adapt content from my book, create educational materials, worksheets, guides for identifying abuse. Within a month, we'd launched the website. We called it Pattern Recognition Project. It featured detailed information about emotional abuse, manipulation tactics, and recovery resources. Our story was there, anonymized but recognizable. 10 women over 8 years following identical patterns. The legal case that followed, the public exposure, the settlement. We didn't name Liam or Veronica. We didn't need to. Anyone who'd been following our case would recognize it immediately. But more importantly, anyone dating someone with similar patterns would see the red flags laid out in stark detail. The website went viral. Within weeks, we had tens of thousands of visitors. Women and men started sharing their own stories of manipulation and abuse. Support groups formed in the comments. People started recognizing their own situations in the patterns we described. And Rachel, the woman Chloe had been worried about, found the site. She reached out to us directly. I think I'm dating the man from your case study, she wrote. I didn't want to believe it, but everything matches. What do? We couldn't give her legal advice, but we could give her information, resources, support, the tools to make her own decision. 2 weeks later, she sent us an update. I confronted him about the patterns. He tried to gaslight me, said I was being paranoid, but I documented everything like your site suggested. I showed him the evidence of his manipulation. He couldn't explain it away. She'd broken up with him. She'd warned his best friend, not Veronica, but someone new playing the same role. She'd posted her story anonymously on our site. And most importantly, she'd reported him to her local domestic violence organization, creating a record that would exist if he tried this with anyone else. Liam tried to threaten legal action against our website, claiming defamation. Isabel shot it down immediately, pointing out that we hadn't named him and that everything on the site was either factual or clearly labeled as opinion. He backed off, but not before his lawyer's letters confirmed what we'd suspected. He was still out there, still playing the same games, still hurting people. But now there was a record. Now there were resources. Now there was a community of people who'd been through it and could help others recognize the patterns. 3 years after the lawsuit, I was living a life I never thought I'd have. I'd been promoted to head nurse at the trauma ward. I was in a healthy relationship with someone who communicated openly and respected my boundaries. I'd bought a small house with a garden where I grew vegetables on weekends. I still had panic attacks sometimes. Still had moments where I questioned my judgment. Still had days where the anger at what they'd done tried to consume me. But I also had therapy. I had support. I had 6 other women who understood exactly what I'd been through. And I had purpose. The Pattern Recognition Project had grown beyond anything we'd imagined. We'd helped hundreds of people identify and escape abusive relationships. We'd trained domestic violence counselors. We'd created educational materials used in high schools and colleges. We'd turned our trauma into something meaningful. Veronica reached out once more, 3 years after the lawsuit. A short email from a new address. I'm sorry, it said. I know you won't believe me. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I've been in therapy for 2 years. Real therapy, not court-ordered. I've been diagnosed with several personality disorders I didn't even know I had. I'm working on myself. I'll never hurt anyone again. I sat with the email for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, to ask questions, to know if she was really changed, but the bigger part of me knew it didn't matter. Her redemption wasn't my responsibility. Her healing wasn't my concern. I didn't owe her forgiveness or acknowledgement or anything at all. I deleted the email and went back to my life. 5 years after the lawsuit, Kendra called with news. Liam got arrested, she said. For what? Stalking, harassment, violation of a restraining order. Some woman he'd been dating filed charges after he broke into her apartment. My first reaction was satisfaction. He'd face legal consequences beyond our civil suit. He was in the system now. My second reaction was sadness for the woman he'd hurt. Another victim. Another person who'd have to rebuild herself. Did she know about our case? I asked. She did, Kendra said. She'd seen the website. She'd documented everything from day one. That's why she was able to get the restraining order and press charges so quickly. Our work helped her. That evening, I opened the Pattern Recognition Project website. The visitor counter had passed 1 million. The resource library had grown to hundreds of articles. The support forums were active 24 hours a day. In the testimonial section, hundreds of people had shared how the site had helped them recognize abuse, escape dangerous situations, and rebuild their lives. One comment stood out. I was dating someone who did everything described in the original case study. At first, I thought I was overreacting, but this site helped me see the patterns clearly. I got out before it got worse. I reported him to the police. I'm now in therapy and rebuilding my life. Thank you for being brave enough to share your story. You saved me. I screenshot it and sent it to our group chat. Whitney responded first. This is why we did it. Britt. Every person we help makes it worth it. Deshawn. We turned pain into purpose. Tess. We refused to stay victims. Kendra. We fought back. And me. We survived. 7 years after the lawsuit, I married my partner in a small ceremony surrounded by people who loved and supported me. The 6 other women from the case were there, not just as guests, but as chosen family. In my vows, I talked about trust, about how hard it had been to believe in people again after what happened, about how my partner had never once made me feel crazy for having boundaries, for needing reassurance, for taking things slowly. You gave me space to heal, I said, and you celebrated every step forward without pressuring me to move faster than I was ready for. That's what real love looks like. At the reception, my sister pulled me aside. Do you ever think about them? Sometimes, I admitted, but not the way I used to. Now when I think about Liam and Veronica, I don't feel anger or pain. I feel pity, I guess. They spent 8 years of their lives playing games and hurting people. They could have spent that time building something real. They wasted it. And what did you build? My sister asked. I looked around the room, my partner laughing with my friends. The 6 women who'd been strangers 8 years ago, but were now some of my closest relationships. The career I'd built, helping trauma survivors. The website that had helped thousands of people. I built a life, I said. A real one. 10 years after the lawsuit, I was invited to speak at a conference on emotional abuse and recovery. The Pattern Recognition Project had become a recognized resource in the field. Domestic violence organizations partnered with us. Therapists recommended our materials to clients. As I stood on stage, looking out at hundreds of faces, I thought about the woman I'd been a decade ago. Confused, gaslighting, convinced something was wrong with me. I want to talk about what comes after, I told the audience. Everyone focuses on recognizing abuse and escaping it. Those are crucial first steps. But what happens next? How do you rebuild trust? How do you learn to have healthy relationships? How do you forgive yourself for not seeing it sooner? I shared my story. Not just the abuse and the lawsuit, but what came after. The therapy, the setbacks, the moments of doubt, the gradual healing. Recovery isn't linear, I explained. Some days you feel strong and whole. Other days, a random trigger sends you spiraling. That's normal. That's part of the process. You don't have to be perfectly healed to move forward. During the Q&A, a young woman raised her hand. How do you know when you're ready to date again? I thought about my partner, about the patience and understanding it had taken to build our relationship. You start by learning to trust yourself again, I said. Not trusting that you'll never be hurt. That's impossible. But trusting that if something feels wrong, you'll listen to that feeling. Trusting that you can set boundaries and enforce them. Trusting that you deserve respect and honesty and real love. Another question. Do you ever regret going public? Making such a big deal out of it? No, I said firmly. Abuse thrives in silence. They counted on us being too embarrassed or ashamed to tell anyone. By going public, we took away their power, and we helped other people recognize the same patterns in their own lives. What would you say to someone who's still in an abusive relationship but isn't ready to leave? This was the hardest question, because I remembered being that person, knowing something was wrong but not wanting to believe it, making excuses, hoping things would change. I'd say, document everything. Even if you're not ready to leave now, start keeping records, screenshots, journals, whatever you can safely maintain. Because when you are ready to leave, you'll need that evidence. And I'd say, you're not crazy. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Trust your instincts. After the conference, dozens of people approached me. Some wanted to share their stories, some wanted advice, some just wanted to say thank you. One woman pulled me aside, tears streaming down her face. I'm Rachel, she said, from 8 years ago, the one who messaged you about dating Liam after the lawsuit. I hugged her immediately. How are you? I'm good, she said. Really good. I finished my degree. I'm working at a nonprofit helping abuse survivors. I've been in therapy, and I'm in a healthy relationship now. But I wanted to thank you. If I hadn't found your website, if I hadn't seen the patterns laid out so clearly, I don't know where I'd be now. You saved yourself, I told her. We just gave you the tools. You gave me hope, she corrected. You showed me that survivors can become more than their trauma, that we can fight back, that we can win. 15 years after the lawsuit, the Pattern Recognition Project celebrated its 10th anniversary. The original 7 of us reunited for a gala fundraiser. We'd all gone in different directions, but we came together for this. Whitney brought her husband and 2 kids. She was practicing family law now, specializing in protecting abuse victims in custody cases. Britt had her PhD in psychology and was running a research lab studying manipulation tactics in relationships. Deshawn had written 3 more books and was a sought-after speaker on abuse recovery. Tess's nonprofit had expanded to 5 states, with dozens of employees and thousands of clients served. Kendra was consulting for the FBI on cases involving digital stalking and harassment. And me? I'd written my own book about the experience, which had become required reading in several social work programs. I still worked at the hospital, but I also taught courses on recognizing and treating trauma in medical settings. At the gala, we presented the first annual Pattern Recognition Awards to people who'd done exceptional work in the field of abuse prevention and recovery. As I stood on stage with my 6 chosen sisters, I felt overwhelming gratitude, not for what we'd been through, but for what we'd built from it. 15 years ago, I said into the microphone, 7 women discovered they'd been victimized by the same couple. We could have stayed silent. We could have let shame and embarrassment keep us isolated. Instead, we found each other. We fought back, and we turned our trauma into a resource that has helped thousands of people. I looked at the 6 women beside me. This work has been the honor of my life, not because of what we survived, but because of what we created. We proved that survivors can become warriors, that victims can become advocates, that pain can be transformed into purpose. The audience stood and applauded, but I wasn't thinking about them. I was thinking about the woman I'd been 15 years ago, holding that phone with Liam's messages, trying to figure out if she was crazy. I wished I could go back and tell her, "You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. You're not the problem." And 15 years from now, you'll be standing on a stage with 6 other survivors, having built something beautiful from something broken. 20 years after the lawsuit, I received an unexpected letter. It was from Veronica's sister, the one who'd reached out to me all those years ago. "I thought you should know," the letter said. "Veronica passed away last month. Overdose. Accidental, they said, but I'm not sure. She'd been struggling for years. Never really recovered from everything that happened. Never forgave herself." The letter continued. "I know you don't owe her anything, but I wanted you to know that she did change in the end. She spent her last 5 years volunteering at women's shelters, helping abuse victims. She could never undo what she did to you and the others, but she tried to make amends in other ways." I sat with that information for a long time. I felt complicated. Not sad. Exactly. Not satisfied either. Just a strange hollowness where anger used to live. I called Kendra. "Did you hear about Veronica?" "I did," she said. "How do you feel?" "I don't know. Relieved? Sad? Nothing? All of the above, probably. It's okay to have mixed feelings about it." "Do you think she really changed?" Kendra was quiet for a moment. "Does it matter? She's gone. Whether she found redemption or not doesn't change what she did to us, and it doesn't change what we built in response." She was right. Veronica's story was over. Ours continued. I never found out what happened to Liam. I heard through the grapevine that he'd moved overseas, trying to escape his reputation. Someone said he'd gotten married, divorced, married again. Someone else said he'd been arrested again, in another country, for similar behavior. But I didn't look him up, didn't check social media or Google his name. He wasn't worth my energy anymore. 25 years after the lawsuit, I retired from nursing. My partner and I moved to a small coastal town where I spent my days gardening, writing, and video calling with my chosen family. The Pattern Recognition Project was still going strong, now run by a younger generation of survivors and advocates. I served on the advisory board, but I'd stepped back from day-to-day operations. On the anniversary of the lawsuit being filed, the 7 of us had a tradition of video calling. We'd catch up, share updates, remember where we'd been, and celebrate how far we'd come. This year, Whitney announced she'd been appointed to a judgeship. Britt had just published a groundbreaking study on long-term effects of emotional abuse. Deshawn's latest book had hit the bestseller list. Tess's nonprofit had expanded internationally. Kendra was teaching cybersecurity courses at a major university. "We did okay," I said, smiling at my screen full of familiar faces. "We did more than okay," Kendra corrected. "We turned the worst thing that ever happened to us into the most meaningful work of our lives." "To us," Whitney said, raising her glass. "To survivors," we all echoed. After the call ended, I sat on my porch watching the sunset. My partner came out with 2 cups of tea and sat beside me. "You okay?" they asked. "More than okay," I said. I was just thinking about how different my life could have been if I'd never found those messages on Liam's phone, if I'd never connected with the other women, if we'd all just stayed silent and tried to move on alone. But you didn't. No, we didn't. We refused to let them get away with it. And in the process, we found each other. We built something bigger than our individual trauma. We created a legacy." My partner squeezed my hand. "You should be proud." "I am," I said. "Not of what we survived, but of what we built. Of who we became." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I thought about the 25-year journey from victim to survivor, to advocate to, finally, just person. A person who'd been through something terrible and come out the other side stronger. The Pattern Recognition Project would outlive all of us. The resources we'd created, the community we'd built, the lives we'd touched. That would continue long after we were gone. And maybe that was the best revenge of all. Not destruction or punishment, but creation. Taking what was meant to break us and using it to build something that would help thousands of others. Liam and Veronica had tried to make us disposable, placeholders, temporary entertainment in their twisted game. Instead, we'd become immortal. Our story, our work, our impact, that would last forever. We'd won. Not just in court, not just in public opinion, but in the most fundamental way possible. We'd turned pain into purpose, trauma into transformation, and victims into victors. And in doing so, we'd ensured that what happened to us could never happen to anyone else without them having the resources, the knowledge, and the community to fight back. That was our legacy. That was our victory. That was our revenge.